let's go for a drive. I could give you a dozen ways in which this CLK63 AMG Black Series is really quite flawed, and we'll come on to those. But the most important thing is, I just really enjoy driving it. Mercedes-AMG has used the Black Series badge only 6 times in almost 20 years, and 2 of those have been based on the C-Class. This is one of them. So we wondered, how do they compare? The CLK63 Black Series and C63 AMG Black Series share an engine, the glorious 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 that remains one of the best performance car engines ever produced. I've driven this very car before, on this very road actually. It was wet then, it was wet this morning as well, but it's dried out, and thank goodness it's dried out, because this is one of those cars that you really want a good dry grippy road when you're driving, because otherwise it's a bit of a handful. It looks like it's going to be rock solid with no ride comfort whatsoever. It has that kind of tough road racer appearance, doesn't it? But actually the ride's lovely. I'm amazed at how sort of pliant the ride quality is, but it does come at a cost, because when the road starts undulating, when you put it through some corners, when you drive with some commitment, the body control just, it's not quite taut, it's not quite ironclad enough to give you that confidence. And so when you get up this Black Series, when you really start pushing it, it sort of nibbles away at your confidence a little bit, because it does this weird corkscrewing stuff. You feel the weight of the car trying to get away from it. It weighs almost 1,800 kilograms. And then there's the steering, which is sort of woolly and vague. Actually, there's no real sense of connection to the front axle at all. So like I said, I can pick out a load of ways in which this CLK63 Black Series is pretty flawed, but I'll say it again, I really enjoy driving it. In the dry, grip is good, plenty of grip. Traction is okay. Actually, with the stability control system on, you can still, particularly in first or second gear, light up the rear tyres. So despite the woolly steering, despite at times that lack of body control, it's still competent enough that you can carry good speed along a road and have fun doing it. AMG planned to build 500, but it's thought up to 700 were built in the end. It arrived in 2007, just the second Mercedes-AMG to wear the Black Series badge. It has wider tracks front and rear and huge arches, bucket seats, manually adjustable suspension, an LSD and vastly uprated brakes. CLK63 Black Series start at around £90,000. Its 6.2 litre V8 produces 500 horsepower and sounds like this. It's a great rumbly V8 sound. It's not stupidly loud in here at all, actually. Instead, it's just a really sort of sophisticated, quite high revving V8 sound. I love it. And I love this engine. 6.2 litres. So it's a big displacement, high torque kind of engine through the mid-range, but then it spins out well beyond 7,000 RPM. And that's the key thing about this Mercedes-AMG 6.2 litre V8. It's got massive torque, but it spins out to the top end as well. It's quite an unusual combination, and it just makes for such a compelling motor. Really good response, such linear power delivery. It's a cracking engine. And the gearbox, it's an old torque converter auto. You do have these paddles, but it's just dim-witted, frankly. You pull for a downshift in particular, wait, 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 and then it comes in. It's slow. The upshifts are fine. It's the downshifts that are a problem. And actually upshifts right at the red line, you have to preempt them because they're not quick enough, really. If you don't preempt them, you just hit the limiter. So the gearbox is this car's big flaw. I suppose the question is it bad enough to ruin the driving experience? And the answer is no, it doesn't ruin it, but it is a hindrance. What else then? Visibility all round is really good. There are no B-pillars, so over your shoulder you see plenty. The body structure doesn't feel that stiff. You can feel it flexing, and that's part of the reason why this car sort of corkscrews when you put the power down. I love these fixed back bucket seats. They're fantastic, they're comfy, they're supportive. This interior feels ancient. The little gear shifter thing is bizarre. The switch gear just feels so old. It's quite a creaky interior. The seat and the steering wheel are slightly offset. There's plenty of body roll. When you shove it into a corner, you feel the weight shift quite heavily. That's that lack of body control. There are many ways in which this CLK63 AMG Black Series is quite flawed, but it's dripping with character. And maybe 90% of that is the engine. And so despite those flaws, it's still really good fun.
The Intercooler is so much more than just a YouTube channel. We have a popular weekly podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, and a multi-award-winning, ad-free online car magazine on website and app. We publish the best stories daily by what we think is the finest team of automotive writers working anywhere in the world today. To see why the Intercooler has won a bunch of awards, click the link on screen or in the description to start your 30-day free trial. The C63 AMG Black Series roared into town in 2012. It borrowed pistons, conrods and the crankshaft from the SLS AMG, meaning the engine revved harder and produced 510 brake horsepower. Just like the CLK63 Black Series, it has wider tracks and fat arches, track-focused coilover suspension, bigger brakes and an LSD. Nowadays you'll pay at least £120,000, but you can pay more than that.
Younger brother then. And it does feel more modern inside this C63 AMG Black Series. I don't have the same offset steering wheel. Lovely bucket seats still. Really comfy, really supportive. Yeah, it doesn't feel so dated in here. And actually, in terms of character, the two cars are really similar. They have that same sort of thuggish character. They're both hot rods. And actually that's where a lot of the fun comes from. And they both look like they're going to be horribly crashy and lumpy and bumpy on the road, but they're not. Just like the CLK63, this C63 is surprisingly supple. It really does ride quite comfortably. And in terms of steering, in terms of body control, in terms of how rigid the body structure feels, this C63 is leaps and bounds ahead of the CLK63. It's night and day. The steering, let's take the steering. There's no vagueness around the straight ahead, just instant response. A keen sense of connection to the front axle, none of that woolliness that you got in the older car. When you tip it into a corner, there's still some body roll, but it's better contained. It doesn't feel like the car's going to fall over, which is the impression you get in the CLK. And in this newer car, we've got better traction as well. So in every sort of objective way, the chassis on this newer car is so much better. The net result is that you just have more confidence. And when you're clipping along, confidence is what you need. And this car gives it to you in spades. You have such faith in the grip, you have faith in the body control, and so it's just more fun to drive. It's a lighter car, this C63, lighter by 50 kilos or something, which is meaningful. It's still no lightweight, it's still more than 1,700 kilograms, but it's just another way in which it has a big advantage over the older car. Point to point along a road, because of that extra body control, because of that confidence that you feel, this car's so much faster. This C63 still doesn't have a dual clutch transmission, but it is so much more responsive than the slushy old auto in the CLK. You pull for a downshift, it's a split second and then it comes through. Upshifts are quick, and that does make a big difference. It means it's not an impediment to having fun. But again, the fun in this C63 Black is not the chassis, it's not the steering, it's the engine. The same 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 with a tiny bit more power, and the same thundering soundtrack, the same mighty engine character, massive torque, really sharp responses, linear power delivery, and a red line well beyond 7,000 RPM, and it really revs all the way up there. Oh, what a motor. So technically and objectively speaking, this is a better car than the CLK63 Black Series. But does that also make it more fun? Let's go and see if we can settle this one once and for all. This video is proudly sponsored by car finance specialist JBR Capital. Now, we work with JBR Capital because we think they understand what it means to be a car enthusiast. Talk to JBR Capital today and you'll talk to an actual person who'll help you put together a finance package to suit your specific needs. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. JBR Capital will consider offering a finance package on any car. So if you've been turned away by other car finance companies, you know where to go. High-end car finance is all JBR Capital does, meaning it understands the car market and car enthusiasts better than most. So before you finance your next sports car, supercar, classic car, even a brand new car, why not see what JBR Capital can do for you? Visit jbrcapital.com or click the link on screen, and this is the important bit, remember to tell them the Intercooler sent you. JBR Capital is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. At the start of the day, Andrew told me that he remembered driving these when they were brand new 15, 16 years ago, and you said
they were absolutely mega.
And then you drove this car today.
Yes.
And then you said to me, it feels quite shonky, doesn't it?
A bit less mega. Putting it, it's amazing, isn't it? Some cars really sort of mature with age.
Yeah.
This isn't one of them.
No.
But to me, it's an icon because there was a terrible SLK 55 Black, and we all thought they were all. And then so they, almost as their sort of, well, this is the car we meant to do. They did this, and we all thought it was wonderful. In when was it? 2008 or something?
Earlier, a bit earlier than that.
Earlier. Yeah. And now you drive it now, and yeah, I mean, nice old thing.
Yeah. Okay, but this is the point. I say when I'm driving the car that there are so many ways that you can criticise it objectively. Yeah. It doesn't really steer. The body control isn't really there. Although,
give me a minute on the gearbox.
The gearbox, yes, it's very, very sluggish, isn't it? I think I concluded that it is a hindrance, but it doesn't stop you enjoying yourself until you drive the other one. Yes, we'll come to the other one. So, I will argue the case that although you can criticise this car fairly in many different ways, gearbox
and quite easily,
steering, doesn't have great body control, although it is on manually adjustable suspension, so you could probably make some changes if you wanted to. But you can criticise it over and over, this car. I still say on camera that I really enjoy driving it.
Is it charming?
Charming.
Charming.
It's character, it's got charm, and then it's got the monster that lives under there.
Because in my mind's eye, which is something I have which you don't, a view of what this car should have been like, or what I remember it to have been like. I've clearly had the rose tints on for the last 16, 17 years.
And they've been ripped off.
Because there aren't many cars I've driven where, in my head, I think it's going to be one thing, and it's been so dramatically the other. I mean, I know what you mean about the charm, but I'm just, because you have no prior experience, you have nothing to unlearn. Yeah. I have a memory of this car which just isn't this car.
You seem quite shocked.
Well, a little. Yeah. And I was before I drove the other one. Yeah. And then I drove the other one.
Okay, but just a word on the engine.
Yeah.
Because it's the heart and soul of the car. It's fantastic.
Is wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Hands down, one of the great naturally aspirated V8s of them all.
And without it, this car really wouldn't be up to much at all, would it?
No. And even though the twin turbo 4-litre AMG engine that succeeded this is a great engine, doesn't have that character. No. And I like the way that it needs revs. And I love the sharpness of its voice. I just wish you didn't have to wait quite so bloody long before you got another gear.
The shift.
Because it just interrupts. It's what? And yeah, you just want it to go bang, 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 don't you?
Well, talking of bang, bang, bang. Yeah. I'm not sure that's quite bang, 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 but the new car, just talking about the gearbox for now, is a
different world.
Big step on. It's not even a DCT, but it feels so much snappier. than this one.
Okay, if that's naught and a DCT is 100, the gearbox in that is somewhere in the mid-80s.
Yeah.
It's so much closer to a DCT than
it
the
is.
gearbox in that car.
But the whole car feels newer.
Yeah.
It feels stiffer. The shell really feels stiffer. It steers with much more accuracy.
Yes.
Better body control, more consistent grip, better traction. Objectively, there's nothing about the newer car that's worse.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
No.
Which is kind of unusual, isn't it?
Because it's not as if it's suddenly, the price for all that is, I don't know, it's got a terrible ride.
Yeah, or it's really heavy.
Yeah, but it's not.
No.
You lose nothing.
No.
I know you prefer the look of the old car, fair enough, completely subjective. I mean, I just can't believe that how many years separate these two cars?
5 or 6 years?
5 or 6 years.
Something like that.
It feels like 10 or 15.
Yeah, it does. It's a big old leap.
This
between
feels like
them.
a modern car. You could get this absolutely stands up today as a modern car.
Yeah.
That feels like a quaint old thing.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, that's right. You have to approach this as a quaint old thing, and you're going to enjoy the experience. Yeah. You know, the soundtrack, the engine. This one, you can just enjoy it as a performance car.
Yeah.
Which is a huge difference. So a word on the looks. If it wasn't for these black wheels, the matte paint.
I love the matte paint.
No.
I love the matte paint. I like the wing. I like everything about it because it tells you what the car is.
No. If
that looked like that but drove like that, it'd be terrible. Because the car would be writing a check.
The
mechanics couldn't catch.
Okay, fine.
But you look at that, you think, I know what that's like to drive, and then you get in it, and that's how it drives.
And that's what it's like to drive.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a dissonance, isn't there?
Yeah.
The way this one looks and how it drives. But just purely aesthetically speaking,
yeah,
I prefer the older car.
It's much cleaner.
It is cleaner,
yeah,
exactly.
It's a much cleaner shape.
But that is a tough, mean-looking thing, and I don't dislike the way it looks at all.
I think it looks fab. It's a Yobs car.
So we've got, what, 2 of the 6 Black Series AMGs.
Yes.
Both C classes.
Yes. So earlier today, you'd driven both of these because I've been off doing something else. And I came up to you and I said, what are they like? Thinking you might say, well, they're really quite similar, you know. One's clearly a bit progressed on from the other, but they're very much peas from a pod. And you just went, well, they're just completely different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed. Given that they've got essentially the same powertrain, they're both very similar sizes, very similar weights.
Yeah.
The way they go down a road is it's
staggering, the difference.
Night and day. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're agreed. That's a lovely car. That's really good fun.
I am as pleasantly surprised by that as I am, I'm afraid, slightly disappointed by that.
Yeah, I accept that. I'm not sure I quite agree because I still just enjoy being in this thing. It goes back to charm and character, that nonsense.
Yeah.
But I still just quite like it.
But you can't commit in this car. You've got to kind of do it the way that it wants to do it, or it can do it, and you have to operate within its limitations. Whereas than that, you just
off you go. Yeah. Yeah. Good summary there. And if you want to read more about these two cars, I'm writing this story, so just head to the-intercooler.com or click on the link here and you can read my story. Remember, you can sign up in seconds using Google Pay or Apple Pay and start your 30-day free trial to get around the paywall. Please do that, and before you disappear off, please remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel.